I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Special Counsel Jack Smith continues to home in on these potential wire fraud charges against Donald Trump in his ongoing criminal investigation into Donald Trump's 2020 election interference. If you are a longtime watcher of the MeidasTouch Network, you know that we've always been saying, I know there are a lot of other criminal investigations that Special Counsel Jack Smith is pursuing, a lot of other leads relating to Donald Trump's crimes, but we've always said from the outset, focus on the wire fraud claims, focus on the wire fraud investigation. And just so you know, in the most basic terms, wire fraud, it's a bit of an antiquated term when, you think about wires, but it basically is all of these communications that were made by Donald Trump and the Trump campaign to supporters in order to raise money based on false premises, the false premises of, hey, your money will go to an election defense fund. Hey, your money is going to go to these specific court cases. Hey, your money is going to go to fight election fraud. That all of those claims were knowingly false, and therefore they raised all of this money under false pretense. How much money did they raise? Well, they raised about $250 million from the time period between November of 2020, when the election took place, and the January 6th insurrection. And one of the things they said is that the money's going to the Election Defense Fund. But guess what, folks? The Election Defense Fund didn't exist. And so while the Trump campaign and Donald Trump told people, here's where your money's going, there was no Election Defense Fund. So where did the money go? Well, that's what Special Counsel Jack Smith is investigating. But we do know that tens of millions of dollars went to Donald Trump's lawyers, not for any of the potential BS conspiracy theories that Donald Trump was spreading about the 2020 election, but it went for things like, paying Donald Trump's lawyers in connection with the Manhattan District Attorney's criminal prosecution of Donald Trump in 2023, paying for Donald Trump's lawyers in the E. Jean Carroll trial, paying for the lawyers of witnesses who work at Mar-a-Lago, dozens of witnesses who are speaking with Special Counsel Jack Smith, or who Special Counsel Jack Smith subpoenaed. One of the things that Special Counsel Jack Smith has uncovered, the same way the January 6th committee uncovered, is that Donald Trump, not directly, but through his various political organizations and front groups, with all of the money that he's raised, they're paying for lawyers to represent all of the people who would be potential witnesses against Donald Trump, and likely coordinating their testimony or telling them things like, you could just simply say that you don't recall if you're asked these questions by Special Counsel Jack Smith's team. But that's where a lot of this money was going. And certainly Special Counsel Jack Smith's investigation into these wire fraud charges have been buttressed by audio tapes recently produced by Abby Grossberg and her lawyer, Jerry Filipatos. Who's Abby Grossberg? Longtime listeners of Legal AF know, and the MeidasTouch podcast know. Abby Grossberg is the former Fox executive producer. She worked at Maria Bartiromo. She then worked at Tucker. She talked about how the first day she went to work for Tucker, all over the walls and the screensaver on her computer were photographs of Nancy Pelosi in a bathing suit. She talked about a horrible, discriminatory environment at the Tucker show. She talked about retaliation, serious gender discrimination. She described the work environment at Fox as not just being toxic, but utterly misogynistic and just completely disgusting. But she participated in these pre-interviews with guests before they would go live. For example, Maria Bartiromo would interview the guests before they went on TV, before it was live, to just try to get a sense of what they were going to say when they would go live. And a lot of these people who worked at the Trump campaign, a lot of people who were very close to Donald Trump gave these pre-interviews to Maria Bartiromo. Abby Grossberg's got the recordings. So notably, and why this connects to Special Counsel Jack Smith and his wire fraud charges, is Peter Navarro, the former top Trump aide who came up with this idea of the Green Bay sweep to cause state legislatures to overturn the results of a free and fair election in 2020. Well, on February 27th, 2021, he gave one of these pre-interviews with Maria Bartiromo that Abby Grossberg recorded. And Navarro basically talked about how Donald Trump and the campaign and all of his political action committees never spent the money that they claim they were going to spend for the 2020 election. You'll hear the tape. I'm going to play it for you right now, where Navarro says that what Trump and what the political action committees have done with this money is criminal. Navarro uses those words. So let's play this clip of what Peter Navarro said about how Trump's inner circle failed to fully fund the effort to steal the election. Play the clip.
But he also has to clean up the people who surrounded him in the final days of the administration and who are crowding him now at Mar-a-Lago. Like tens of millions of dollars left in the campaign that they didn't spend when it came time to challenge the election issues. And that was criminal.
What happens to all that money?
Well, now they're going to go to, I'm telling names here. Bill Stickman and Justin Clark are like the campaign guys now, and they'll go on the payroll and they'll spend that money. And it'll go right into their pockets. Brad Parscale might even get some of them. It's crazy.
Special shout out there to Ari Melber, who played those tapes. And so Special Counsel Jack Smith very focused on wire fraud. Now, one of the reasons that we knew that he'd be very focused on wire fraud is if you just look into Special Counsel Jack Smith's background, right? He led the public integrity section at the U.S. Department of Justice starting in 2010. And there he did investigations of people like Virginia Governor Bob McDonald and U.S. Representative Rick Renzi and New York Assembly Speaker Sheldon Silver and Jeffrey Sterling, a CIA agent who shared national secrets. And so Special Counsel Jack Smith's bread and butter in the public integrity section are these campaign finance violations, fraud, following the money. And Special Counsel Jack Smith staffed up his team with other leaders of the public integrity section within the Department of Justice. So clearly that is an area of inquiry that he was going to go into. But just if you're keeping track, let me just give you all of the Special Counsel Jack Smith various criminal investigations relating to 2020 election interference. First, what took place on the day of January 6th itself, Donald Trump causing insurrectionists to try to overthrow our democracy, the fake elector scheme, wire fraud, which we just mentioned, and pressuring and threatening state and local legislatures. Then there's a separate grand jury that's investigating Donald Trump's theft of thousands of government records and classified records and confidential information and sensitive compartmented information and Donald Trump's obstruction of justice. But, you know, these document-based cases where you follow the money, where you can show a jury the documents and the fraud that's taking place, are often one of the most powerful tools in the toolkit of the Department of Justice. And you can expect potentially hundreds of counts, separate counts of wire fraud in a future indictment of Donald Trump by Special Counsel Jack Smith. So that's where we're at now. And again, you'll see the headlines, for example, from the New York Times that basically say Special Counsel Jack Smith focused on wire fraud charges. But we've known that all along, but he's certainly more focused on that now. He hasn't forgotten about all the other charges, but we'll keep you posted as we learn more here. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Now, hit subscribe on our YouTube channel. We're on our way to 1.5 million subscribers. We hope to get there by this summer with your support, so hit subscribe. Check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. And finally, wherever you get your podcast, search the MeidasTouch podcast. It's free to subscribe. All right, hit subscribe here right now. It is free. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ben Meiselas. Have a great day. Hit subscribe.
Love this video? Then you'll love the MeidasTouch podcast. Listen as my brothers and I break down the latest news and chat with top political leaders on the fastest growing pro-democracy podcast in the world. New episodes drop every Tuesday and Friday. Add the MeidasTouch podcast right now wherever you listen to your podcasts.